Okay, this time we're going to go over the buyer offer brain dump form. This form you could use multiple times with the same client. Every time they're preparing an offer, this is the form you'll use to get the information to the transaction coordination team so they can fill it out. Now, we've got the same preamble as always, a reminder that takes some time to get this done. About 2 hours is an estimated turnaround time on an offer. And again, after hours, what you need to do. If there's a rush, what you need to do. And if it's a holiday, who to call. Okay, let's go through this. Again, as always, anything with a red star, you're going to have to put something in there, but we've tried to reduce the number of red stars as much as possible to get you through this as quickly as you can. Your first name, your phone number. You'll notice again, lead source for Brokerman. This is again a little bit of our data gathering to help you out. MLS number. If it's not on the MLS, then you are going to have to put in a property address. If it's on the MLS, then you're going to be able to get a lot of information. The agent is your transaction coordination is going to get a lot of the information right off the MLS. Type of financing you're going to be using. This also gives us a heads up if you mark FHA or VA, then you should also mark further down the information you need for the FHA and VA addendum. If you mark conventional, but you are requesting closing costs, then further down the form, there's going to be some information about the closing cost addendum. This gives your transaction coordinator a heads up at the beginning. Contact information. Once again, a reminder from Joe from Legal. If it's in a trust or an LLC, we've got to have the trust or LLC names, not the people's names. And title is going to be requesting those documents. So make sure if they tell you this is going to go in a trust or in an LLC, we've got those documents so that we can prove that we're going about this properly, even though a human being is going to be signing it. Okay. Now we're going to put the buyer name, contact information in here. Buyer one is required. Any buyer after that, now you don't have to keep putting in this. You can skip these if you need to. If there are more than two, then there's a spot here for additional ones. Listing agent, first name and last name. We tried to shorten this. That's in there. Listing agent information. Your transaction coordinator can then use to contact the listing agent through information that's already available on the MLS or on the listing for any additional information. If it's indicated in some way on the listing that you are to send the offers to someone besides the listing agent, please include that here. Does the listing side have a transaction coordinator or assistant? Yes, no, or unknown. Okay. Offer details. Is the lead-based paint disclosure present? That goes before an offer, not at the end, not 3 days later. It has to be included with the offer. That's why it's right at the beginning. Okay, setting up your offer. Make sure the buyer names the way they will appear on the contract. Seller names. This gives you a little bit of information on how to look it up. But remember, not all listings have the seller names there, and there's oftentimes not enough room for the seller names. Contact the agent, find out what names they want to use. Go on the MLS and look at the property tax data and pull it up. Remember, on the property tax, oftentimes it has last name, comma, first name. Put the names in the right order. Or if it's a trust, it'll have trust in there. Your best bet is to contact the agent, find out how they want it to look. Putting owner of record, we won't do because that's not a correct document. Owner of record is not who owns it. Okay. Earnest money, how much, put in the amount. Full property address. We know that it's kind of wonky on the contract that we have to do the address, the city, the county. Make sure it's in there. Tax ID number. Copy and paste that thing in there in the listing. Make sure you mark the inclusions. Make sure you include any exclusions. Inclusions and exclusions, you notice, are both marked as required. Okay. Even if there are no exclusions, this is one of the few places where I've got it still in there that you need to put some kind of response. Okay, purchase price. We need the purchase price. This is paragraph 2 with the math. If they know what the loan amount's going to be, if they know an approximate down payment, if it's seller financing, we have to put the seller financing number in there and the balance of purchase price due in cash at settlement. Okay, make sure that this is so we make sure paragraph 2 is right. Is it subject to the sale of the buyer's property? If it is, and you mark yes, we're going to be looking at the end to make sure you filled out the information on the subject too. Possession, if it's on an after hours spot, if it's like 24 hours or 48 hours or whatever, or calendar days, mark the appropriate spot. And then on the other line, put the correct how many times it's supposed to be. It's kind of a quirk with the form. Couldn't find a better way to do it. Okay. Most of the time, we know we're marking upon recording. Prorations, we're going to mark who's paying which. Buyer broker compensation. Again, you're going to be marking in here what you're putting on the offer in paragraph 4 for the buyer broker compensation, percentage of purchase price, and if you're putting any kind of additional fee on there to try to cover your transaction fees. Okay. All the condition requirements, mark yes or no. Now, if earnest money is going to be released to the seller, if the buyer cancels after due diligence, put that in there. If not, zero. Again, one of the few places you're going to see that because we have to have something in that line, even if that line is zero. Additional earnest money will or will not. If it's marked will not, then you don't need to worry about the amount. Okay, if there are addenda, there are or are not. Now we've got some of the most commonly used addenda right here. Mark all that apply. If you're using something else, mark other. If you need a blank addendum with something else on it, mark other. Because down below, you're going to see where you're going to put in the information. Information about the home warranty plan. Will be or will not be. If you're marking will not be, then the rest of these you can skip. But all the information right in the same order as the contract. Mediation, contract deadlines. Now, I put this as short answer because sometimes we choose to go with the X number of days after acceptance. Sometimes agents will choose to put a specific date in there. Whichever way you want it to look, enter that for each of these contract deadlines. Acceptance deadline we know is unique because it's the only one that has AM or PM at the end of it. So when you put the time for the acceptance deadline, make sure we mark AM or PM as well as the acceptance deadline date. Now, what you're going to see in this next section are common addenda. This isn't all of the addenda. There are 48 of them, but these are addenda that are commonly used, starting with the FHA, VA addendum, and closing cost addendum, because there's a paragraph that's common to both of them, so why make it separate? FHA, VA, you're going to mark what kind it is. FHA, VA addendum has that line that requires a dollar amount for how much the seller will pay or provide toward appraisal required repairs. Negotiable amount. Amount that the seller will pay for a appraisal required pest control report. In Utah, only VA requires that. Many of the inspectors we recommend already include that report as part of the report. If they are notified at the beginning it's a VA inspection, they already provide that, and then the invoice is for $0. Now, the amount that the buyer is requesting for closing costs, this paragraph looks exactly the same on the FHA and VA addendum and the closing cost addendum for somebody using conventional. Put in the number. What's the number they want? Or if it's a percentage of the purchase price, put in what they want in that line. Disclosure of interest. This is used if you, as the agent, are related to the principal, any of the principals, buyer or seller. Are you related to the buyer or seller? Yes or no? If you mark no, you're good. You're out. Okay. How are you related? This is important because there are under state guidelines, under statute, as well as under case law, define specifically who you need to be filling this out for. If this is your cousin's in-laws, we need to know that because you may not have to do this. In fact, you probably won't. But if you're talking the your parents, your grandparents, your children, your aunts and uncles or cousins, okay, we're looking at needing to. If it's further out than that, then we'll have a conversation about that. Does the buyer have a real estate license? This is if you are acting as buyer or seller, you need to mark yes because you are a principal. And there have been lots of agents who've gotten in trouble for not disclosing they are a principal. Limited agency, yes or no. Escalation clause. Now, there is no standard escalation clause, which still floors me, but the way that our escalation clause is written, the buyer needs to indicate how much they're willing to escalate each time above whatever the highest grossing offer is, up to a ceiling. How high are they willing to go? So that's why there's a maximum price. Subject to sale, if they mark that it is subject to sale, then this just follows the order of the required information about the property. If there's anything additional you need, then mark that, yes, I need it, and put what you need on the addendum. Okay, any other final notes? If seller financing is being used, then they need to review this, and you need to talk with Marty about has requested as principal broker. You contact him because there's a lot of information that goes into this that the buyer needs to understand how it's filled out. And then again, at the end, you're going to make sure everything is signed, everything's ready, and you're ready to go. As always, if you have questions, you know who to call.